Hi, this is Geordie Greep and this is Turn TV and we're at diskunion in Shinjuku looking for albums.
今日は来日のタイミングで当店にお越しいただいてありがとうございます。ディスクユニオン新宿インディオーターティブロック館の澤田と申します。今日はよろしくお願いします。ジョーディーはここに来るのは初めてですか？
No, I've been here before, I think. Every time I come to Tokyo or Japan in general, I end up having to leave with another suitcase because I buy so many albums. Because for one, there's more of the things that I like, more of the kind of music and kind of records I want to get, and two, that is always in much better condition than in the UK. So may as well, you know.
じゃあジョーディーは結構レコードのコレクションはすごいいっぱい持ってるんですか？
Yeah, pretty much. The problem is that like, first of all, I was for a long time I was like, I'm not gonna collect albums, I'm not gonna collect records, because I'm going to see it turn into, once you start buying a bit, you need to get, once you start buying one sort of genre, you have to get all of that genre, and then so on and so on. But then after a while, I was like, I'll only buy this type of music, or I'll only buy this artist, or I'll only buy this type of music, but it just spiraled, and now I'm just collecting all the things I like, and yeah, now I have, 2,000, 1,000, 2,000 records at home, so it's like quite a lot now. I need to, they're all piling on the floor and stuff, I need to buy new shelves for them and everything, you know, it's like a lot.
ジャンル的にはどういったジャンルのものが一番多いんですか？
Probably the Latin stuff, like Latin and Brazilian stuff, I have quite a lot now, and I have like most of the albums that I want to get, I have. And then also like jazz fusion, ETM records, I have 300 something, you know, so it's like, with those sort of ones, it's like really, it's never ending, you know.
一番最初に買ったレコードっていうのはどのアルバムなんですか？
Record, I think, first album record I bought was maybe The Who, Tommy, The Who, or Alice Cooper, Live. I can't remember exactly, but it was around one of those. Maybe I was younger, 10, 11, I think. I can't, yeah. But it was like a bad record player. It was like, you know, one of these ones which just had the speakers inside as well. And like, it's like £30 or something, it was cheap. So like, I quickly kind of thought like, I don't want to buy too many albums because they're gonna break. Like it sounds not so good on this turntable. So but yeah, I didn't get a proper turntable again till I was like 20, and then that's when I started buying records again.
最近リリースされたアルバムでお気に入りのアルバムがあったら教えてほしいんですけど。
It's hard to say. I don't listen to new music that much, to be honest. Like maybe one album a year. I used to, like when I was a teenager, I had this thing of I have to listen to every single album that comes out that is like people are talking about. I'm going to listen to everything. And then when I was like 18 or 19, I look back of the past 5-6 years, and then so many of these albums I completely forgot I even listened to, and it was like, you know, it's not even like listen to once, listen to a lot, 5, 10, 15 times, whatever, but still a few years later you kind of completely forget about them. It wasn't the same with like classic albums that I would get into, or more like albums that have survived for a while and people, you know, remember and think of good, and so I think it's just a thing of like the majority albums that come out every year that are like get good reviews or people like. It's the same with movies. 5-10 years later, it's kind of like, okay, who cares? But if something is still talked about 10-15 years later, then it's like, you know, there's more chance that 10-15 years from now people will remember. I don't know. Either way, so like after that, I kind of thought like, I'm not going to spend all my time listening to these new albums that I might not even end up liking or thinking about twice in the future. So I'm just going to get deep into these older genres and things I like. And also for a few years, I only really listened to classical music when I was 18. When I first was doing the band, I think, because doing the gigs loud every day, it's kind of annoying. You just want to listen to something more melodic or something. But either way, that's the new album that I really liked. To be honest, my friend in London, I have a friend called Nico, drummer. He plays with me in London, and he has a band called Oreglo, or Oreglo, and it's jazz fusion. But so much of the jazz fusion that comes out now is a bit soft and has a bit like kind of almost kind of lack of weight and kind of like, it's definitely jazz first and then the fusion second. Jazz and then with a little bit of rock or a little bit of whatever, and kind of also very chill, like lo-fi beats to chill kind of vibe. But his band Oreglo, they have a bit more rawness and a bit more energy, a bit more of the rock with the jazz. So they did an album or EP, I think, and he gave it to me. And sometimes when your friend gives you an album, you're like, oh, I really want it to be good, you know? Like you kind of like almost don't want to listen to it straight away because you don't want to have to lie to them. You want to say, oh no, it's you know, you don't want to be fake. So I didn't listen to it for a while, but when I did listen to it, I thought, hey, this is actually really, really good. So I don't have to lie to my friend. I can just say, hey, the album you did was sick.
じゃあ最後なんですけど、あなたの人生を変えた一番好きなアルバムっていうのがあれば教えてください。できればそのエピソードも。
Lots and lots. Lots and lots. Maybe Jimi Hendrix, like any of them, but the third one, Electric Ladyland, just because this was the first time I was listening to the album which had so many sound effects. I remember listening to this album and the first few tracks with all these crazy sounds, I was kind of scared listening to it because it was like sounded kind of scary, like the CD was broken or something. This was when I was like eight years old or something. So that's one of them. There's also stuff like Miles Davis in a Silent Way, which is the first kind of jazz fusion album that I've got into when I was like 12, 13. And it's such an atmospheric album. It was the first time that I listened to an album which has such, the emphasis is on the mood and the atmosphere more than the compositions. But then again, the compositions are deceptively simple or whatever. Like there's stuff in them. There's like passages which are pretty high level music and really melodic and really well put together. But most of it is just about the mood and about the feeling. For example, the album more recently, about 4 or 5 years ago, I really got into the album Comedia by Hector Lavoe, one of the best salsa albums of all time. And that was a thing which was like, wow, this is such a great match of how complex it is, well, how nice it is to listen to. Rhythmically, melodically, structurally, it's really well put together, really symphonic album, but really chill and nice and anthemic and popular music, you know. And one more I'll say is the Japanese album, Boredoms, Vision Creation New Sun, which I first heard when I was like, about 14 years old. And it's a similar thing to In a Silent Way, where it's completely based on atmosphere, but instead of an intoxicating or mood atmosphere, it's more like a ferocious atmosphere, or like the ultimate intensity atmosphere. I still think is maybe one of the 10 most intense albums made, just because sometimes people, when they want to make something very intense, they go towards making it dark or making it about the end of everything, or like some real like hatred and despair, that's cool too. But this is an album which is super intense and super loud and super infinity sounding, but it has a joyous spirit and not necessarily happy, but definitely exultant atmosphere of like this is the center of the universe kind of thing. Infinity, sure, kind of scary, but also like this is just the beginning and the end, middle of everything. It's a great album. Fania All Stars live at Yankee Stadium. This is super historic recording. It was the movement of Fania Records was the culmination of kind of Latin American diaspora who moving to New York and creating this label, Fania Records, and this type of music, salsa, which was the combination of all the separate musical movements in Cuba, Puerto Rico, Colombia, Venezuela, everywhere. So this is maybe what the biggest show that they did as this collective, and they played at Yankee Stadium to however many thousands of people, right? 100,000 to I don't know exactly, but and it is great, and it has all the classic singers. It has Celia Cruz, Ismael Miranda, Hector Lavoe, all singing with this great band. This one, Abaco de Sol. This album, I have listened to a bit, but not so much. But I'm more interested in to see how it is, because it's an early album that was, I think, produced by Gilberto Gismonti, and with a guy that it just has a lot of the same musicians that are around in that era, and a guy that ended up doing an album in the late 70s, 80s, which is great. I can't remember the name that I have here. Either way, they were an interesting Brazilian band, which was a mixture of the Brazilian style, but with a lot of progressive rock and kind of fusion, jazz fusion as well. Adalberto Santiago. This is a great Fania album, a great salsa. The singing to salsa is in the early salsa, or at least the early recordings in the early 70s, late 60s, and the sound is very harsh, very heavy. The trombones are very bam 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 and like very over the top, which is nice. Albums like Crime Pays by Willie Colon and Sondio Bestial, stuff like this. Like the early salsa is very aggressive, and as it went on, it got cleaner and cleaner, and the arrangements in some ways more slick. But when it got cleaner and more slick, it lost some of the rawness and some of the excitement. So this album is actually a good crossover of when it was going towards the romantic salsa with the more slick arrangements, but it still has an edge. So this is a great one, and especially the song Ay Caray on side B is really good. So this Public Image, the first album, which was the band that John Lydon did after Sex Pistols, right? And they did a bunch of albums. The most influential one is maybe the second album, Metal Box, or second pressing, whatever it's called. But I like this one because it has more of they went into a kind of dubby thing on the second album, which is super cool. But something about this one is very pure, I think, and it has a good melodic kind of sensibility or whatever. A few of the songs are just great songs. It's less like, oh, it's cool, influential album. It's more just some really great songs. And the first track is crazy as well. It's 10 minutes long, and he keeps saying he wish he could die and all of this. So. But I really like this album, and they were interesting band, and did lots of cool albums. But this is my favorite one, I think. This is Annette Peacock, I'm the One, from the early 70s. And this is an album that people have recommended to me a lots of times over the years, and to be honest, I've tried to listen to it lots of times, and I've never really gotten into it. I like it. I like listen to it. I think it's good, but I haven't I don't know the songs off by heart and all this. So I really want to give it a go, and I really want to try it because people love this album and people recommend it to me. She was this kind of singer, songwriter, composer who really pushed her voice to the limit and everything, and really made these crazy sounding albums. And her compositions were actually well regarded in the jazz community too. I mean, I think some of her stuff was played by people like Paul Bley, her compositions. So it's like, you know, they were well regarded. But yeah, her albums I've never got into so much, but I'm going to give this a serious go. And this last one with this funny guy is Michael Nyman, his early 80s album. And this also, I haven't listened to this one yet. There's some tracks on this I know, like this Ridon Giovanni. This is very famous, this piece. But yeah, Michael Nyman famously did music for the movies of Peter Greenaway, and he did, you know, for The Draftsman's Contract, maybe is the most famous one, music-wise, and it's great. And Michael Nyman actually went on to become extremely famous for doing music for the piano in the 90s with, yeah, whatever her name is. But I kind of prefer his early stuff when he worked with his own group, Michael Nyman Group, and it has this kind of chamber baroque sound. His whole deal was that he said his breakthrough was when he tried to play, I can't remember if it's a piece by Purcell or a piece by Handel or something. He played a piece by a baroque or early music composer, and he said he played it like Jerry Lee Lewis as a joke. And then thought, oh, that sounds pretty good actually. So a lot of his music is kind of reinterpretations of Baroque classical music or Renaissance classical music, but played with a different arrangement and a different kind of style, with less ornamentation, with more kind of minimalistic jang, 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 jang going through the piece, but the harmony is often identical. But it's great, It's like, you know.
ありがとうございます。
ありがとうございます。